Star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. We sang that earlier. Has it struck you how many Christmas carols are filled with imagery of light and wonder and stars and dreams? Somehow, even Western cultures have learned to embrace these kinds of seemingly irrational concepts as perfectly normal at certain times of the year. It's part of this comforting and warm tradition that we cherish. In everyday life, however, not so much. What would happen if we would begin to live each day within the embrace of these mystical elements of the human experience? Could we expand our souls, our horizons, to include the possibility of divine, intuitive encounters? Or does that frighten us? Does this notify our rational antenna, alerting us to the danger of somehow going overboard? Consider just for a moment that we rarely consider strict rationalism or refined intellectual prowess. We don't label that as going overboard. Yes, we are products of Western intellectualism with all of its great contributions and its blinding limitations. I invite you to join me in the company of those who dream, those who follow stars, those who defy empires bent on control and supremacy. We meet members of that company here in the text that Steve just read. Who are the ones who dream dreams? It is Joseph, whose fiancée Mary has just given birth to Jesus. And it is the magi, sometimes described as astrologers or astronomers, who came from the region of Persia. Our traditions have described the magi as kings or wise men. They may have been both, either, or neither. What remains is that they were people who considered dreams and stars to adequately inform personal life and decisions. Whether mystical practitioners or sages or kings is somehow irrelevant. They are drawn by wonder and a star that had mysteriously appeared in the nighttime sky. They researched this star, this strange phenomenon, and we're not told how they come to know that this was actually announcing a newborn king of the Jews. But they set out on a long journey to find the one whom they did not yet know. Once they arrive in the presence of the local governing authorities in Jerusalem, they meet the keepers of the empire who are suddenly on high alert. These foreign guests are told by the king of the Jews, by the authorities, that the king of Jews was born in Bethlehem. And it's interesting to note that once they leave these halls of power, the star appears again, and it takes them right to where they need to be. Which makes me wonder whether they could have proceeded on their journey without stopping to see the governing authorities, and they may have arrived at the same place. I don't know. Be that as it may. As predicted, they find this newborn child and his parents, and they pay respects. We're told nothing about Joseph and Mary's response. They, along with their child, were the recipients of a divinely orchestrated visit. What was it for? We are not told. Immediately following this mysterious visit, which for some reason has made it into our canonical writings, the Magi are warned in a dream not to divulge any more of this information to those in power, but to proceed on their way. If these were kings in another region, defying orders in foreign territory could have been very risky. It's true, this didn't happen in the digital age of location tracking devices, but defiance to official governing bodies could have landed them in a very dangerous spot. We need only to think about King Herod's retaliation when he realized that he had been duped. But the Magi have a clear understanding of dreams to guide, inform, and warn. They act decisively and subversively. They're not the only ones. Joseph, too, has a dream which sends him and Mary and the child into a foreign country, out of the reach of this furious king. Joseph, too, was a dreamer who knew the power of a dream. Heeding the message of this dream protected them during a harrowing time. From this one text, we meet two types of dreamers. One is deeply devout, as we understand it, Joseph, and the other group is one of Eastern mystics, the Magi. Both had similar perceptions and subsequent responses. I know the sound of dreaming, writes Cole Arthur Riley, poet and New York Times best-selling author. As an African-American woman, Riley knows something about needing to dream. Her Black Liturgies, a book by the same title coming out later this month, these liturgies are part her writings and poignant quotes from other artists and writers and poets, and the other part intentional inhale and exhale, declarations. Her work is profound, it's insightful, it's challenging. If you want to find her, check out her website, ColeArthurRiley.com, or read her work on Instagram at Black Liturgies. I know the sound of dreaming. It is not the sound of shame, she writes. That simple yet profound statement tells me that the sound of dreams cannot coexist with all other sounds. For example, it can't coexist with the sound of blame, the sound of fear, the sound of strife, the sound of hate, the sound of war, the sound of confusion. The sound of the Magi's dream had a sound of warning, of protection, direction. Joseph's dream had the same sound. In both cases, the dreamer heeded the dreams and changed plans dramatically. One dream caused a root change. The other led to uprooting a family to essentially become refugees. Do we recognize the sound of dreams? Do we listen to them? Or do we discard them as being annoying and confusing? Sometimes they seem that way unless we learn to hear the sound. A musical score can look equally confusing and unintelligible until we learn how to read it. A musician can hear the music just from that score, that paper, that page, that screen, even without any vocalization or instrumentation. They have learned to hear the sound. Consider the sound of dreams. Even if they only serve to understand tough personal situations, they have validity. And who knows? Their sound may be much more expansive than your own person or your own situation. But we live in the 21st century. We've just entered a new year. 2024 is poised to be a year of confusion and promises and anger and fear and competition. We have to be proactive, engaged, on high alert to be sure we do all we can to preserve a way of governance and life and to ensure freedom and stability. Am I right? We don't have time for for obscure and undefinable non-essentials in our lives. We're pragmatic, we're thoughtful, we're decisive. Those are admirable qualities, and we need them. What about times when we are unaware of what is happening behind the scenes? Or times that we are out of our league and feel completely overwhelmed? Or times when we feel helpless with the plethora of messages coming at us from around the globe, out of our nations and our state capitals, as well as out of our very own community? What then? Does it help to spew venom out of frustration? Is anger helpful when we don't know how to channel it? Does more information, more engagement, more medication, more numbing help our cause or our own well-being? The narrative of our text, like most spiritual scriptural stories, is sparse on detail. But here, two emotions are mentioned: the joy of the magi when they see the child, and the anger of the king when his authoritarianism has been defied. You see that difference? The magi had joy at seeing this child, even after trekking months in this desert, trying to find someone they weren't even quite sure would be there. They had joy. The king was furious when his position, his power, was not heeded. That's a contrast. Keep this in mind when you encounter people who retaliate, those who shout in anger, people who tear others down to get ahead. I invite you into the company of those who dream, those who follow stars, those who thereby defy empires bent on control and supremacy. How do you dream when you're angry? Can dreams cut through cynicism? Do dreams help calm anxiety or magnify that? My spiritual director has frequently said, your dreams aren't meant to terrify you. They are to encourage, to inform, and to comfort you. Joseph had a dream that saved his family. The Magi had a dream that interrupted the plans of the most powerful man of the region. Neither are inconsequential. We are a congregation, a people who sees the bigger picture. We see things globally. We try to understand cause and effect and act responsibly. Yes, we anticipate a tumultuous 2024, an election year. It is vitally important to be alert, to be aware, to be engaged. We have difficulty getting our arms around the kind of possibility that is not as tangible, like a dream. Are we drawn by wonder and a star? Or are we dismissive, regarding them as ancient relics of a superstition from a bygone era? We can't get too comfortable with what we think we know. There's always another angle, a deeper meaning, the sound of a dream waiting to be heard. Exactly because of that, we look into 2024 and predict tumult and chaos. And because of this, I invite you to join me in the company of those who dream, those who follow stars, those who set out on a long journey to find the one whom they do not yet know, those who thereby defy empires bent on control and supremacy. There is a strength we have given little credence. We are comfortable taking our dreams and stars and wonder out of storage once a year, but we quickly return them so that we can again relax into our familiar routines. The time into which Jesus was born was tumultuous. It was a time of brutal dictatorship, a mandatory census which uprooted entire people groups, uncertainty politically, and for Joseph and Mary and others like them personally. And yet, they heard the sound of a dream. We find ourselves in a moment. There is urgency. So much is coming together, it threatens to shake us, send us into our familiar caves, and has us shouting for or against things we feel critical to our existence on this planet at this juncture in history. There is urgency. We need dreams. We need intellect. We need prayer. We need poetry, art, music. We need healing relationships. We need vision. When you can't dream any longer, go outside and sit under the stars. When you can't hear the sound of the dream any longer, get outside, listen to the music of nature, birds, running water, wind in the trees, rain falling on the grass. We cannot, we dare not miss this moment. It is a moment of wonder. It is a moment of uncertainty. A time when terror exists in many places around the globe, and simultaneously, it is a moment of beauty and music and laughter. All of them coexist. The realities coexist, but the sound of the dreams cannot coexist with other sounds. Learn the sound of the dream. I know the sound of dreaming, says Cole Arthur Riley. It is not the sound of hopelessness. It is not the sound of disillusionment. It is not the sound of defeat. And it most definitely is not the sound of failure. I invite you, all of you, to join me in the company of those who dream, those who follow stars, those who set out on a long journey to seek and find the one we have not yet known. Those who defy empires bent on control and supremacy. May we recognize this sound.